This is a one-speaker meeting. Please welcome our speaker tonight, Ralph.
My name is Ralph White, and I'm an alcoholic. Thanks, Sean, for asking me to come out and share tonight. And I want to thank the group for asking me to come out and thank the group for being here when I showed up. Ben, happy birthday, wherever you went off to. It's a lot of people sitting up in here. Happy birthday to you, you know. And to our new friends, welcome home. You know, Dino, John, Joanne, Tiffany, Nate. Want to welcome you. Want to let you know if you drink like I drink and if you live like I live, this is probably the best step you can take from the cradle to the grave. And I don't say that because I'm tonight's speaker. I don't say it because it's the right thing to say when you get behind a podium in Alcoholics Anonymous. I say it because this program, this process, and this power that you introduced me to has been working in my life like nothing else I've discovered. You know, I would see some of my good friends here. And I'm a guy that likes to impress. You need to know that off the top. I really want to be impressive. That's the story of my life. I'm all show, no tell. You know, all front, no back. You know, that's me, you know. So, you know, I'm looking at Mickey over here, and I'm looking at goddamn Berlinski over here, knowing he's going to talk a bunch of shit when I get out, you know. So, and my good friend Sean, and I look around the room, and I respect the kind of recovery that's in here, and I want to let you guys know that I really want to impress you. I'd like to throw out a bunch of pages and lines, and I really want to say I'm not going to share a long drunk-a-log. I just want to share about recovery. But to our new friends, I remember being new to the room, Alcoholics Anonymous. I remember a speaker coming up and addressing us somewhat like I am tonight, and he was dressed pretty nice, and his hair was combed, and his eyes were bright, and he was stringing sentences together real well. And I remember thinking to myself that night, I know this cat ain't been where I've been, I know he ain't felt what I felt, and I know he ain't done what I've done. So it's real important that I let you know that the man that's standing in front of you tonight is not the same one stumbled into the rooms Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, some few years ago. I'm going to share with you in a general way what I used to be like, what happened, and what I'm like today, in the hopes that somebody out there be thinking like I was thinking. I used to feel the same way. I used to go through the same shit. Or more important, I too want to have this thing. You can't appreciate who's standing in front of you tonight if you don't know where it is that I come from. You know, I grew up in South Central. I'm going to give a real brief bio. Grew up in South Central, one of 6 boys. Stayed in a little 2-bedroom apartment. Moms and pops stayed in one room. Me and my 5 brothers stayed in another room in 3 bunk beds. Earliest memory of my old man was he was an alcoholic, and I really didn't want to be like him. My father wasn't abusive, and my father wasn't violent. My father was an absentee drunk. And every other Friday, like clockwork, you knew he wouldn't be at home with the check. Be a little kid in the neighborhood who'd come around and tell my family how my old man had been showing his ass up at the pool hall the previous Friday or Saturday night. And I feel ashamed and embarrassed, and those are feelings I'm familiar with from a real early age. Fast forward, Pops got put out the house when I was 9 or 10 years old. Mom's proceeded to raise these 6 boys by herself. You know, I don't know if that's why I'm alcoholic. You know, I really can't tell you that's why I'm alcoholic. You know, I don't believe I'm not alcoholic because I'm a poor brother from South Central Los Angeles. Look around the room. You can see that ain't the case. I'm not alcoholic because I come from a 1-parent family. There's some people sitting in the room right now that have both parents at the house. I'm not alcoholic because I grew up and we didn't have a lot. There's somebody in here that grew up with a silver spoon. I'm not alcoholic because I'm a short guy. There's some big guys in here. I'm not alcoholic, you know. I'm an alcoholic for 2 reasons and 2 reasons only. 1, when I start, I can't tell you when I'm going to stop. And 2, when I sincerely don't want to start again, I start again anyway. I'm bodily and mentally different from my fellows. That's it. That's all. The rest is my story. And my story goes a little bit like this. You know, every one of you guys had me in your classroom. I was usually class president or student body president. I was a straight A student. I played ball. I made all-stars. On the outside, it seemed like I should have been okay. On the inside, I've always felt like if you really knew me, you wouldn't like me. Straight A student, teacher's pet, all of that shit would have traded it in if I could have been cool. Because in my neighborhood that I grew up in, there was a whole lot more currency placed on cool than smart. And the cats who was cool was the ones in the bathroom smoking cigarettes, shooting dice, taking quarters from guys like me that brought extra quarters. And they knew how to talk to girls, and girls were a mystery to me. I never saw alcohol in my house after my old man. I never saw alcohol when my old man was in the house. My old man was a stay away from home drunk. drunk. So I saw the results of it when he came. He was usually sober by the time he came home because they had dried him out in the drunk tank. You know, I never saw alcoholism really in my house when I grew up. So that ain't my story. My story don't go with a whole bunch of that. I had a loving mom that raised these 6 boys, took us to church every Sunday morning. I resented the hell out of her, and I was scared as hell of her. So all those stories I told you about teachers, pet, and straight-A student, it was because of fear of my mom. It wasn't no virtue on my part. So I'm growing up like this. I'm square and I'm introverted, and I'm growing up in the 60s, man. And in the 60s, it was a turbulent time. It was an exciting time. It was a changing time, and I was caught up in that, and I was determined not to be my daddy. I'm not going to be my daddy. I won't make my kids ashamed of them because I always was ashamed, and my old man seemed weak to me. I'll make my family proud of me. I'll be somebody. And I grew up driven like that and driven like that and driven like that. Got involved in a lot of community stuff. I'm growing up this kid with big goals and dreams and ambitions. Ain't touched nothing. 16 years old, we're going to fast forward a little bit. 16 years old, still ain't never touched nothing because that ain't, I'm on the fast track for success. I'm a high achiever. I accomplished stuff. I was a kid that got pats on the head all the time. I'm the one that on Sundays, on Easter, I'd show up and recite a bunch of verses at church because I'm a good memorizer and I like attention, I ain't never felt none of that, but I was that kid, and so I'm growing up, man. I'm 16. I get a girlfriend at 16. Now, Ralph with a girlfriend at 16 don't mean the same thing it means for a lot of you guys. Ralph with a girlfriend at 16 simply means this. I ran with a crew of dudes that went with the same group of girls. One of my boys broke up with this girl. I waited a suitable amount of time to pass, told my other boy, look, I want to go with her. He went and asked her, came back and told me. She said, yes, now I got a girlfriend, right? Ralph don't know what to do. But Ralph don't do girls. I don't know what to do with girls, And there's some people in here from my era. Remember them old rotary phones? Check this out. This is my official girlfriend. I mean, if you would, I'd had other girlfriends before, but this one knew she was my girlfriend, right? She was claiming me, too. If you would ask her who you go with, she'd have said Ralph. And on my official girlfriend, I call her, man, that 7th number would come around. Seemed like it'd come back in slow motion and terror would set in because I knew what would have to happen when she answered the phone, right? Telephone, you got to talk. I don't have no conversation for my girl. Click, just hang up on her, right? This particular night, I go out on a double date with one of my partners. Older partner of mine, him and his girl in the front seat, me and my girl in the back seat. Plastic cup of rum and coke come to the back seat this night, drank that rum and coke down, went down real warm, rushed back to the top of my brain. All of a sudden, Ralph's hands started doing things they had never done. Mouth started saying things that had never said, and I'd arrived. Alcohol did for me what I couldn't do for myself. Gave me the courage to do and to be and to say things I wouldn't do, be, and say without it, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. In the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, it talks about me in a lot of places. And to our new friends, there's a chapter in the front of the book called A Doctor's Opinion. And there's a line in there that jumped out at me the first time I read it. It said, men and women like me drink essentially for the effect produced by alcohol. I recognized that line first time. I saw some of you old veterans be drinking that scotch and be like, I'd be like, ugh, but I like what it did when it went down. I'm not overnight alcoholic. I understand when we talk about this disease being progressive in nature because that's how it showed up for me. That first night I drank, I didn't get pissy drunk. I didn't get drunk at all. Got a warm, tipsy feeling, kissed my girl in some places I hadn't kissed her, sucked on her some places I hadn't sucked on. I liked what it did, and I was cool like that, right? And I just went on about my business, and that's how my drinking stayed for a time. I would drink when I went out to parties, and I would have a good time with it. That's how it stayed. I graduated from high school in 71, graduated to higher education in every sense of the word. 71, I'm still drinking just to go to parties. By the end of 71, I'm drinking not only at the parties, but I'm drinking on the weekend during the day to get ready for the parties. By 1972, I'm drinking, and I'm now added some non-addictive marijuana to the mix. I'm doing that after class. By the end of 72, I'm drinking, I'm smoking herb, and I'm selling herb. By 1973, I'm drinking, I'm smoking herb, I'm selling herb, I'm doing other drugs, I'm doing it on a daily basis, and you could not have told me it was anything wrong with the way that I was living. Big Book Alcoholics Anonymous talks about at a certain point in my drinking career, I won't be able to tell the truth from the false. And the way that worked for me was this. In the way that I'm doing it, isn't that the way everybody does it? Why would you be young, with a bright future, with a little bit of money? I was giving financial aid. Didn't chasing women and getting loaded come with the territory? Yeah. In those days, man, if I came over your house, if you came over my house and I couldn't offer you something to drink or something to smoke, I wasn't being a good host. And if I went over your house and you didn't do the same for me, not only weren't you being a good host, wasn't coming over your house no more. For what? Wasn't nothing to discuss. You know, and it's a trip how when you get caught up in the life, you be caught up in the life, and everything that you do, when you a guy like me, everything you do revolves around. I came out here from Carson tonight, and I gave myself about 45 minutes. In the old days, that ain't how I met, you know, that ain't how I think. In the old days, I got to get out here from Carson. That's about a 3-joint trip. I used to measure time and distance by how loaded you could get from point A to point B, right? So, you know, that's how I'm rolling. And no disrespect to our young friends. I'm not talking about new friends. I'm talking about young friends. I'm glad I grew up at the time I grew up. I'm glad I grew up at the time I grew up. It was an exciting time. It was a changing time. It was a lot of things going on. And in some ways, it seemed like a simpler time, too. You know, in 2007, man, you got to worry about safe sex, sexually transmitted disease, all that old shit. Man, back in those days, I'd go to a club, I'd have a one-question interview for a girl. You get high? If not, next. Don't need to know your sign, where you work, what your mama's name is. Don't need to know. Let's get to the basis of this relationship. Do you do it like I do it, you know? Back in those days, man, remember, you would go to a concert, you didn't even have to know your neighbor. You just passed and shit. That's the time I came up in, man. You know, and my grandmother used to say trouble always start out like fun, and you couldn't have told me back in those days that it was going to end up. Bill calls it like a boomerang that came back on him and cut him. You couldn't have told me. You couldn't have told me, because in those days it was all big fun. I marvel at some of you guys when you get up to the podium and you can talk about exactly what was taking place when it used to fill this hole and it used to take away the emptiness. And it probably did do all that for me, but check this out, and there's people in here who know what I'm talking about. If you grow up in the 60s and 70s and you ain't gonna be, that's just what you do. That I don't know if everybody was doing it, but it sure seemed like everybody except my grandmama and granddaddy was. It seemed like everybody was getting low, and you ain't gonna roll with me. That's how we rolling. I'm at a major university. I got life. You know, when the chips, I'm at a major university. Somebody bring me back, because I'm gonna go down a path and I might stay stuck down there. I turned 54 last Tuesday, you know, and so I get stuck sometime. But you know, I came around this program 4 times before I came to say. I was listening to Ben talk about relapse and relapse and relapse. I came around here 4 times, and I'm a good mimic, I'm a good chameleon, and I'm a good impresser, you know. So I hear stuff and I mimic it real well. And the way that I would go to meetings the first time I came, I would go to a meeting, I listen to a speaker like I am tonight, share a story. I pick out the most profound stuff to me that he said. I go to a meeting tomorrow night, make sure the speaker's not there, not too many of you guys are there. You know, I repeat what he said. I tack on a keep coming back, and the program works. And I thought, because I claimed it from the podium, it would be true in my experience. And I kept getting loaded, kept getting loaded, kept getting loaded. Couldn't find myself in the big book Alcoholics Anonymous at all. First time I read Bill's story, all I saw was the differences, man. Bill, I read his story, I looked at it. He was an older white guy. You see, we don't have that in common. You know, Bill talked about he was a veteran of foreign wars. I'm a Vietnam era draft dodger. You know, Bill talked about, you know, in Bill's story, he talked about there had been no real infidelity. Missed me on that one, too. So, you know, he was just missing me. You know, I couldn't see it. I would hear you guys come to the podium. I'd hear all the differences, you know. I don't have no accent like that guy right there. You know, I'd hear all the differences, you know. And when I came back to Alcoholics Anonymous to stay this time, somebody taught me how to read the big book Alcoholics Anonymous. And they said, Ralph, the same way that you read the big book Alcoholics Anonymous is the same way that you listen to our members share their stories when they get up to the podium. When you read the big book Alcoholics Anonymous and when you listen to our members share their stories, ask yourself 3 or 4 questions. Ask yourself, did I drink like he drank? Did I think like he thought? Did I feel like he felt? Or did I do what he did? And when I asked myself those questions in the light of my own experience, the book came alive for me, and I found my story. You know, because I remember in Bill's story, he talked about the drive for success was on. I'd proved to the world I was important. That was me. That was me. I'm at this major university. I'm used to high achieving. Drive for success was on. I prove I'm bigger and better than my daddy. I prove to the world I'm somebody. And he said drink was taking a more and more important part in his life at that particular time. That was me. I'm young, I got a bright future. I'm rolling with these cats that's gonna later be pro athletes and businessmen and politicians, and you couldn't have told me. And that's how it stayed for me. And I can't tell you the day or the time or the moment when, where I was or when it happened for me, when alcohol and drugs ceased to be a luxury for me and became a necessity. I can tell you that day happened. I came out of that school. I started working as a counselor for LA City Schools. I had the kind of job that should have allowed me to acquire what normal people acquired. I never did that. Snapshot of Ralph's life. This is when alcohol was working. I used to buy a car and make exactly 3 car payments, then come find it. Come find it. First time I had a car repossessed, I had the nerve to call LAPD, right? I'm 9 months behind on the note, and I'm calling the police. My car is stolen. They do whatever they do. They came back on the phone. No, Mr. Wright, the rightful owner just came and got that shit, right? The next 2 times, I didn't even trip. I already knew, right? I'm the kind of brother never had a problem balancing a bank book. Payday, I got money. 2 days later, broke. 0. No problem balance in my bank book. I stayed in the crib from 1976 to 1979 without paying rent. A couple of baffling features about the disease I suffer from, and one of them is this. I can't see my relationship with alcohol until I'm free of it. I can't see what it's doing to me when I'm in the mix. So some of the things that are crystal clear to me now, looking back in the rearview mirror of experience, were not at all clear to me when I was going through them. One fact stands out real clear to me about those days when I thought it was working. I used to go to work for 2 weeks to live for 2 days. That's it, that's all. That's how I was living, man. And we don't have enough time for me to go through all the ups and all the downs. I had some successes. I did some things. I achieved some things. I accomplished some things. And then it started turning on me, and I started doing the other kind of stuff that we do. I started looking down and seeking the Lord companion. I see somebody like Mickey. If I get like his ass, I quit. I look over here at Neil. I ever get like, ooh, you need to quit. And the book talks about seeking the Lord companion. It wasn't long before. And I just knew it wouldn't be me. Anybody else play the regret game in Alcoholics Anonymous? The regret game goes something like, if I only knew then what I knew now, I never would have took that. Yeah, right, I like to tell a story that describes me. Story about a little boy named Johnny. Johnny had a habit his father frowned on. Johnny used to like to play with himself. Father goes off to work one day, comes home early without, or goes to little Johnny's bedroom door. Door's closed. He opens the door without knocking. Sure enough, little Johnny's in the bedroom masturbating. Father looks at him and says, son, I thought I told you if you keep doing that, you'll go blind. Little Johnny stopped and looked at his daddy and said, well, Daddy, can I just do it till I need glasses? I like that story, A, because I've been in a room like this with people like you, and B, because, that story reminds me of me in the life. I'm just going to do it till I need, and we don't have enough time for me to tell you all the things that should have been signs along the way I might have been having problems with this thing called alcohol. I got married in 1980 on a Saturday afternoon in April at 1 o'clock. I had a bachelor party before my wedding, the Friday night before my wedding. None of the guys at the bachelor party are getting married the next day, and all of them have sense enough to go home at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm still at my bachelor party till 7:30 in the morning, right? Me and my brothers. Take me home, pour me in the bed at 7:30, get me up at 10 o'clock for my 1 o'clock wet. I'm toe up. I just laid on the bed, right? They get me up at 10 o'clock for my 1 o'clock wedding. I'm supposed to say my own vows at this wedding, right? So I show up and I wobble in, and my then wife-to-be is standing next to the preacher. She look at the preacher, she look at me, she say, scratch their own vows. Say the regular on his ass, right? So now my lines are cut to 2 words. So I get into the ceremony, man, and it gets to me. I get ready to say I do. I say and threw up. Passed out. Have not taken a wedding picture to this day. Pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. That's a good thing, because those stories always sound better in retrospect. I probably don't even need to go down this path, because I was at the house today. Yesterday I ain't going to go there. I'll get there a little bit later if I get there. I'm going to stay in where I am right now. No, I'm going to go where I go. I'm going to go where I go. I just left the house. And when you do this thing, now I'm going to go down a path I really didn't know I was going down. You know how you be going? You be going, people like, we got a guy in here that's just all over the world speaking and shit. You be going and you getting ready and you getting spiritually ready. And then at the house in the bedroom before you going, you know, I call Sean, I'm running late, I'm in traffic. I wasn't in no traffic, I was in a hell of a thing in my own bedroom, you know, just some shit, you know, just some shit. You know, and when you stand up at a podium in Alcoholics Anonymous, and you tell your story. And see, my story is my story. My story ain't an embellishment. My story ain't somebody else. My story's my story. I stood up in front of God and about 500 witnesses, and I ruined, not this wife, that just brought up this shit. It brought up, that's how I roll, that's how I am. I'm a tornado through people's lives. I'm a tornado. And let me get under the influence, and anything I touch is two categories of people that come around Ralph under the influence. Marks and Vicks. Two categories. That's it, that's all. And so I stand on a podium, and that's an amusing story. But you know what? Women, ladies in the room right now. Everybody in here ain't gonna be, you know, everybody in here is not gonna be Holly Berry. Everybody in here, you know, it's not gonna be Michelle. Everybody in here ain't gonna have an Oscar. Not gonna get Oscars. And for most women, it's one day when all eyes are on them. It's one day when they queen for a day. It's one day that's their day. Their Oscar, their day. And heaven forbid if they be hooked up with a guy like me. And I show my ass up. And I share the story from, and sometime it come back to me, the reality of that day. You know, and I show my ass up. And in front of all them people, you know how at the reception you walk around and you thank everybody, I've had another wedding and I did it the right way. And I just imagine that girl walking around by herself at the reception. I have a hazy memory. I was laying in a bedroom. We had the reception at this big house up in there, and I was laying in a bedroom, and occasionally somebody would come in that I hadn't met before, and she might try to introduce them, and I'd do something, and the cold thing about that one, talk about pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization, I'm real familiar with that in my story. Pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. See, because that wedding day was the high point of that marriage. Because I'm the kind of father and I'm the kind of husband. Remember sitting on my living room couch, my wife coming out the bathroom real fast, pulling her pants up, going to the dining room table, picking her purse up off the table, clutching it real close to her as she went back to the bathroom, and I would feel this tall because nobody was in the house but me and her, but it got like that in my house. I'm the kind of father and I'm the kind of husband. Remember coming home and sticking my key in the door. Wife and 2-year-old daughter sitting here and they crying. I look over here and homeboy sitting in my seat with a gun pointed on my stomach talking about I want my money right now. Talk to the fellas for a minute. Don't know about the rest of you guys, but I always had a lot of fears and doubts about, do I have what it takes to be a husband? Do I have what it takes to be a father? Because if you in the life, your track record already give you your answer, right? Because what's the father's role and what's the husband's role, fellas? To protect and to provide. And it's a cold-blooded feeling laying in bed with a woman night after night after night after night, knowing not only aren't you protecting, knowing not only aren't you providing, you the one bringing the wolf to the door. See, I'm the kind of father and I'm the kind of husband, remember sitting on my back porch, 2-year-old daughter coming outside, pulling at my coat. Daddy, Daddy, that's my piggy bank. And I remember stopping and giving her a shitty grin. Don't worry, baby, Daddy's going to put some dollar bills in here for this change. And I wasn't raised to be stealing from my wife or my daughter. But I was alcoholic with no tools of recovery, and I did what it took to get what I needed to get. Wasn't long before I was into that marriage. Not too long, fast forward the story, I'm kicked out of my house, you know. I'm kicked out of my house. I go back to my mama's house. I'm now my daddy. And at the time I got put out of my house, my ex-wife thought it was something salvageable about this piece of man that she married. And she used to want me and my daughter to keep a father-daughter relationship. And I got to tell you guys that I wanted to be a father to my little girl with everything in me. I really, 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 really did. I wanted to take my girl to Disneyland and Magic Mountain. I wanted to take her to a movie on a Saturday afternoon. I wanted to walk up the street with her little hand in my big hand, take her to the store and just buy her some ice cream. I wanted to tuck her in bed at night and give her a good night kiss. I wanted to sit her in my lap and read stories to her. I wanted to get the look from my little girl that I've seen men in this fellowship get the look like, this is my daddy and this is my hero. And the best I could do on them Saturday afternoons when my wife would bring her over to my mom's house, best I could do was 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Tell my mom something like I'm going to the store to get Rain some ice cream. I disappear. It's Saturday. I come back on I sneak back Sunday night when her mom was picking her up. And I could still remember some of them long Sunday nights, sticking my head around the side of my mom's house, tears flowing. And I see them two heads in the car and the headlights backing out, and I be thinking through the tears, there go my life backing out this driveway. Heard a lot of people talk about being scared of dying out there. That's not my story. I was never scared of dying. Scared I was going to keep waking up to the same old shit. Monday the same as Tuesday, the same as Sunday, the same as Christmas, over and over and over again. And I am so glad that God don't make misery comfortable. And on October 11th, 1986, I got miserable enough and I got tired enough that I got directed to my 4th program of recovery. And I went to the Harbor Life Center on Skid Row in downtown Los Angeles. And 2 days after I went to the Harbor Life Center, they took me to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. Journey started for a guy named Ralph. I come from a real dark place. You guys, the night speaker is not the one that has the message of fear for you. If you're looking for that speaker, you need another one tonight. I'm not the one that's going to tell you if you get back out there still kicking ass, or if you go back out there, that ain't my message, I ain't the one that's going to give you all the don'ts. And the book talks about a message that's got to have depth and that's got to have weight. And the message the night speaker brings to you that's got the most depth, because you can't scare me. You cannot scare alcoholics. I share with you guys in what I used to think of as my heyday. You know how I used to do it. And the way I used to do it, sometimes people would look at me and be like, Ralph, ain't you scared of overdose? I mean, like, scared of overdose? I'm scared of the deadly underdose. You better put some more shit. So the message of fear ain't the one for me. The book talks about a message that's got to have depth and that's got to have weight. And the message tonight's speaker brings to you that's got the most depth and the most weight is you looking at a guy who at 33 years old and giving up on life. You're looking at a guy at 33 years old and not answered anybody's 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock wake-up call to go to work in so long, I no longer thought I was employable. You're looking at a guy who at 33 years old, man, did not know where his family was living and didn't know what school his little girl was enrolled in. You're looking at a guy who graduated from a major university in this country, and my job at the end of my drinking was taking the trash out for a 21-year-old who stayed across the street from my mom. I was sleeping in the back of my mother's garage, and I was eating lemons off a neighbor's lemon tree for breakfast. And I stumbled into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous that October 1986. Fellowship I crave. And the men and women in this fellowship loved me and nursed me back to health. Gave me something I wasn't looking for when I came up in here. To our new friends, if you anything like me, and you suddenly appear listening to a guy that's on the other side of 20 years sober, and you wondering, God damn, how can I know what you're thinking? John, I see you. I see you. I know what you're thinking. I'm jittering along. I can't do this, but you can. Just now tapped into a source of power much greater than yourself. You don't have to drink and you don't have to use no matter what, provided you're willing to fulfill some conditions. Told me that at the first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous I went to. The speaker stood up in front of the group and dropped another line on me I'll never forget. He said, this is the only club you can be a member of where the worse off you are when you get here, better off your chances of staying. Got the message of hope that first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous I went to. Got on a path to really go somewhere. I come from a real dark place. I come from a real dark place. I'm a guy that has achieved some things and had a measure of success. We didn't have enough time for me to go through my whole story. First time I came into the rooms, my last job at that time, I was working in management in the law department of a major utility company. And so when I came up in here that last time, under the lash of alcohol, ass wore out, toe up, man. And I was scared as hell. I was like, guys like me don't get second chances. You don't get second chances. You had a family. You had your shot. You had a house. You had your shot. You had a career. You had your shot. Guys like me don't get second chances. And I came up in here not knowing what was waiting on me on the recovery end. And if you coming up in here and it's your 4th program, your 6th program, your 12th program, and you wondering, God damn, why try again? I didn't come up here. I did the opposite of the second step we do. There's a negative step that we do. Second step is came to believe in a power greater than me. I had taken that other step before I came in the rooms. I had come to believe in the hopelessness and futility of life as I have been living it. Most of us didn't come in here new friends. I'm standing up here and I'm dressed nice and I'm talking about recovery tonight. But trust me, most of us didn't come in here walking to the light. We came in here running from the fire. If your ass is on fire, that's a good place to be. Don't trip. Don't worry about what's waiting on on you in recovery. Just know what's waiting on you in the life, and that's a good place to be. And I came up in here in that broken down condition, and I started going to meetings, and I started going to meetings, and I started going to meetings, and I fell in love with the fellowship before I fell in love with the program. And I started going to meetings, and you accepted me. You accepted me. I got into this thing called recovery. I didn't get a job for 18 months, and in those 18 months, I was going to 3 meetings every single day. I couldn't wait to catch the bus for a meeting at noon, and I couldn't wait to catch the bus for a meeting at night. And somebody saw me catching the bus and showing up at the same meetings every day. And a partner of mine that I met in about my 6 months, and we've been road dogs ever since. I got a brother that's a year younger than me, and he's 3 months older than me in recovery, and I hooked up with this brother named Strange, and he had an old yellow bucket, and he started seeing me at meetings. And he said, man, I'll bring you to the meeting the next day. And I got a road dog. In about 4 months of recovery, you know, I asked this guy to sponsor me, and he put me on a path to really go somewhere. And all sorts of remarkable things have started happening in my life since then. You know, we don't have enough time. God damn, time flies when you're having fun. New friend, I'm as grateful today as the day that I came up in here. I'm always glad to be able to stand in front of anybody and let you know what God can do with a life. I'm not so impressed with the fact that I'm coming up on 21 years sober next month, but I am impressed with what a loving God can do if you just give him a little bit of material to work with. I come from a dark place, and my life has never been better. And I got a whole bunch of shit going on with me. And the things that I love about the power that I've tapped into, he'll work with me right where I am. He'll work with me just like I am. And by no means am I perfect, but my life has purpose. My life has value. My life has meaning. And if you really want to know the secret to this program, we got a triangle in this program, and that triangle is the symbol, and it's inside a circle. And that's on that triangle we talk about unity, recovery, and service. Unity is the fellowship, and I bring my body to the fellowship. I bring my body to the meetings. I get involved in the meetings. I started going to the sober dances. It became my favorite place to go. I always look for the meetings. After I got hungry for the meetings, man, I'm a hungry alcoholic. I like to know how to mix my shit. I like it straight. I don't like no chaser, and I wanted my recovery the same way. I heard somebody talking about these steps, and why be in a 12-step program and not take the 12 steps? I'm hungry like that, and I'm ambitious. So I got anxious and eager about it, and somebody started taking me through that process of recovery. And unity, and that's the recovery part that's outlined, and I take that to my mind. I take the 12 steps, you know, and I've applied it to the best of my ability right where I am right now. Don't try to do it perfect, just do it. Just do it. I applied it to the best of my ability right where I am right now. And it's not a homework assignment. It's the way I live my life. It's a lifestyle. It's the way that I live my life, and it's never been better. And then if you want to know the secret to this deal, if you want to know the secret to this thing that we doing here, if you want to be able to survive when your old lady go off on you right before you have to come speak, if you want to know how to go off, you know, if you want to be able to survive the certain trials and low spots ahead, somebody's going to die in somebody's family. Somebody's going to get fired. IRS is going to want $75,000 from somebody at some point. Somebody going to be in an industry where you can't make no money, right? Somebody going to be, but if you want to know how to survive the certain trials and low spots, I'm going to tell you the secret. There's some people in here that know the secret. See, what Ralph is doing right now, Sean, I'm going to get ready to get down from here, I promise. You know, what Ralph is doing right now, I'm standing in the light. It's standing in the kind of the spotlight of what we do in Alcoholics Anonymous. And when I was new, I couldn't wait to get up there. You guys need to hear from me. But it's some of the people who know the secret to what it is we do. And they work in the shadows. They work in the shadows. And they are service soldiers. They're the people who go on a Wednesday night and they open up a door. And they sit, even if they don't know if somebody's going to show up. And they fire up a coffee pot. And they wait for Ralph. And I'm grateful that one of you guys was waiting for me when I came. They are service soldiers. They go in our recovery programs. They go in our treatment centers. They go in our jails. And they carry this message. And they wait on a guy like me. And I am ever so grateful to the men and women in this fellowship. You gave me my life. It was 14 years yesterday that I got all the way down the aisle with another woman. I got the I do out. I even had the pictures to prove it. I got a 12-year-old daughter at home that I said goodbye to. Daddy will be back. I've never seen the flicker of doubt in that little girl's eye. Like, I wonder, is he coming back? She don't know that guy. 12 years old, never seen her daddy loaded one day at a time. She never will. That 2-year-old whose piggy bank I was going into, she's 24 years old now. She's a freshman at the University of San Francisco Law School. Yeah. Daddy's paying. Imagine that. Imagine that. You know, and I don't have enough time to tell you guys all that has been given to me by this program. I asked a guy, you know, with about 50 some odd years of sobriety now. I asked him, what's the most important thing you found since you've been sober? And I thought he'd say a God consciousness, and I thought he would talk about, you know, something heavy and, you know, God-oriented and, you know, and a spiritual awake, something like that. I said, what's the most important ingredient, Tom? And he told me the secret. He said enthusiasm. Enthusiasm. God damn it, if it's supposed to be a program of attraction, make it attractive. Don't be standing up in here, yeah, I thought I could find an easiest out the way. This is the, you know, hell no. Trust me, if this wasn't fun, I wouldn't be doing it, new friends. This is the easier, softer way. God damn it, I love it, I love it, I love it. I'm sober, I get an opportunity to show up. I get an opportunity to be cussed out as a husband. I get an opportunity to be a father. I get an opportunity, man, to be broke. Because where I come from, I didn't get that opportunity. I'm so grateful to you guys, man, and you know, they got to pull me down from a podium, all that. But if God had brought you from where he brought me, you talk about him all night long, too. My name is Ralph White, and I am an alcoholic.
That was amazing.